All right, guys, welcome. Beautiful night in Los Angeles. What's going to happen with the ROI for Bitcoin and MicroStrategy this year? I'm just going to give you my predictions on it, and I could be 100% wrong. Um, this is not financial advice, so I wouldn't trade on this. I wouldn't place bets on this, but this is just kind of what I'm planning on for my own forecast of the future. So, if Bitcoin gets to $150,000 this year, I think it will get to $150,000 in 2025. Um, a few things have to happen for that to take place. I think, in particular, number one, we're obviously seeing more adoption by corporations. There's many companies that are adopting a MicroStrategy playbook, which basically means that putting Bitcoin as a strategic reserve on their balance sheet. So there's multiple companies that are adopting this. Second thing is we have governments that are jumping in as well. We know that El Salvador got in a while ago. We know that there's other governments that are considering getting in. We know that the United States is considering making Bitcoin part of their strategic Bitcoin reserve, which means that they might allocate some dollars to it. So I think if the U.S. gets on board and we start to see the U.S. allocating a large degree of money to Bitcoin, I think other nations will follow. I think other governments will follow, and I think at that point we could see Bitcoin go over $200,000 next year. I know there's a lot of bullish claims where people think that we might get 500,000 extra Bitcoin. I don't think that's the case. I personally don't think we'll get close to that. But I do think we will get to 150,000. That's kind of my. I wouldn't say. I would say it's a little bit not conservative number. I just think we'd get to 150,000. I would be thrilled if we hit 200K. If we hit 200K, I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, that's amazing. One of the reasons I'd be thrilled with that is not just Bitcoin going up, but MicroStrategy goes up about a 2x to what Bitcoin goes up. So when I initially made my investment in MicroStrategy earlier in the year, I remember when I first bought MicroStrategy in 2020, we're like, let's put some money into MicroStrategy to support Michael Saylor. That was back in 2020. Smaller amount then. I put large amounts in early 2024. And since then, I think MicroStrategy on most of my investment in there has gone up about 400% since my putting later. So when you look at what Bitcoin's gone up compared to MicroStrategy goes up by about a 2x. So for every dollar Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up by 2. So I believe that if we get to $150,000 Bitcoin next year, which is only 50% more, we'll see MicroStrategy then double from where it's at. MicroStrategy is sitting around, if you look right now, it's probably about 385 right now, 400, 385 right now. But I actually, my prediction for MicroStrategy next year is 1,200. I think we'll get to 1,200. So that's my prediction. Right now it's trading at 385. We could hit 1,200 next year. The reason I believe that, and again, do not place any trades based on what I'm predicting on this. Don't go buy based on what I'm predicting on this. This is not financial advice. It's just I want to share with you what I think, and I've obviously invested, and I believe this is going to happen. I also got into MicroStrategy a lot cheaper. So if it does go up to 1,200, $1,200, I will have 7 or 8x my investment in MicroStrategy. That's a free extra. Okay. So if you're thinking about getting in now, you have to do your research. You have to get educated on it. You have to understand what it is. And before you invest in anything, I would highly recommend that you get educated and learn a lot. And there's a lot of great people out here on YouTube that are sharing stuff online and get educated. So why do I think MicroStrategy will go to 1,200? Number one, we are seeing more and more corporations adopt Bitcoin as their balance sheet strategy. Number two, Michael Saylor put together a plan to buy $42 billion more Bitcoin. As he just announced that they bought another $2 billion yesterday, I believe that the equity plan, which was $21 billion in terms of issuing more stock, and the bond plan of issuing more bonds is another $21 billion. I believe They're at about 11 or close to $10 billion of equity issued and somewhere around 3 billion of bonds. So of their $42 billion plan, which was supposed to be over 3 years, they're a third of the way there, which is huge. Okay. So they're a third of the way there of buying that $42 billion of additional Bitcoin. So at this point, they own $40 billion, or right now about 41 or $42 billion of Bitcoin. And so that means that they already hit 12 billion or 13 billion of their plan, there's another 30 billion to come. So they're going to be over 70 billion Bitcoin they purchase. And I think that all of that is going to happen in 2025. I don't think it's going to be a plan based on the pace that they're going. So based on MicroStrategy and their plan to buy more Bitcoin, I think they're going to go up even more. And then I also think that when Trump gets in the office, I'm hoping that they do move quickly on allocating dollars for the U.S. government as a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We know that we own about $15 billion right now that was seized from whoever, and that's still sitting there. And so if the U.S. comes in and goes with their plan, which is, it's just a theory right now, and it's a hypothetical. Hey, the U.S. could buy 200,000 Bitcoin every single year for the next several years. Even if they do half of that and they start doing it next year, I think it will instill confidence in the public. And I think that other nations and governments will follow. And I think that's how we could see a $1,200 price point on MicroStrategy. I think that's how we could see a $200,000 Bitcoin. So that is my belief on what's going to happen. Again, my conservative number, where I think we will hit for sure, is $150,000 Bitcoin. My semi-aggressive is 200,000. And I know there's a lot of people falling for, hey, we could hit 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. I would love for that to happen. I don't see it at this point in 2025. I don't see it. I think we'll get to $1 million Bitcoin one day. Yes, I think that will happen between the year 2030 and 2033. I think absolutely. So long term for sure. And I think as you're looking at any of this stuff, holding Bitcoin over a 4-year period, I think it's very difficult to lose if you do. I think a lot of times people will get in and buy Bitcoin. People think they're too late right now. They're not. If your time horizon is 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, and certainly if your time horizon is 10 years, you're not too late at all. I mean, we will see $1 million Bitcoin at some point in the future. And I think we'll see it within the next 6 to 8 years. Okay. Again, not financial advice, but I can't see how it won't happen. All right. So if you're looking at the time horizon of holding Bitcoin for that long, then getting in now, you'd be getting in early. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is when they're getting into Bitcoin, they're looking to get in 30 days, get that ROI. And that's not how you invest in Bitcoin. It's just not. Even as you get into MicroStrategy and you buy MicroStrategy, people are looking to get in 30 days and 60 days, get that ROI. And that's just not how you buy MicroStrategy. You just don't buy it that way. You buy these things from the viewpoint of, number one, you understand what the company's doing. If you don't understand what MicroStrategy is doing, you need to study it, because it's the greatest financial move I think we've ever seen in the last 100 years, and maybe the greatest financial move that's ever been done in the history of money. That's how bullish I am on what's going on with MicroStrategy. And so if you don't know what's going on, you really need to understand it. Now, I can give you a glimpse of it tonight, but it's fascinating what's going on. And then take it back one step further. If you don't know what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin truly is, you need to understand Bitcoin, right? Because first comes Bitcoin, then second comes MicroStrategy, which is a company that buys Bitcoin. So if you don't understand Bitcoin, then you're certainly not going to understand MicroStrategy. Does that make sense? So the first thing you need to get educated on is get educated on Bitcoin to really understand what it is. Okay. Once you understand Bitcoin, then you can understand MicroStrategy. Right. I was watching a video last night, and I was watching with my girlfriend. I was like, "Hey, watch this video with me," because I got her into Bitcoin about 4.5 years ago. And I said, "Watch this video with me." And I said, "I want you to understand MicroStrategy." And Michael Saylor, the founder, came on and gave this great analogy of like, what Bitcoin is, and give this analogy of kind of investing. And he said, in investing, if you're investing in money, you're investing in stocks, and you're going to make investments, I should say, with your money. He said that you kind of look at it as like a sporting event, right? You can be on the sidelines as a spectator watching the game, and at the end of the day, you're just sitting there watching it. Um, and then eventually you can get in the game, and when you get in the game, you need to choose like, okay, what game are you going to play, right? Now, clearly, you could take your money and you could go to the casino, he says, and you could bet your money at the casino, but that's gambling where it's rigged, and it's rigged in the favor of the casinos, right? You know that if you go there, it's likely you're going to lose. And a lot of times people think when they're investing in Bitcoin or something, they think they're gambling, and you're just not, because the analogy is that in Bitcoin, and the truth of it is that everybody wins. It is a game where you can play that everybody wins. And Satoshi, who created it that way, a game that everybody could win. And everybody can win because it is decentralized and no central government controls it. And that's the beauty of it. If you were to shut down for the Bitcoin network to go down, every government on the face of the planet would have to decide all at once that they're going to shut down the internet simultaneously. That's how you would shut down the Bitcoin network. And then, even if you shut down all of the internet on the face of the planet, there's routers and things that you could still connect, and you could get access to Bitcoin in other ways to still access your Bitcoin. So the risk of the network, which has never been hacked since it's been in existence, the risk of the network going down is highly, 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 highly unlikely. Just highly unlikely. Okay. And when you think about the power of the network is being powered it's equal to 20 nuclear reactors that it takes to power the Bitcoin network. That's how much power goes into powering the network. So when you think about the strength of this network, when you think about what you're going to bet on in the future and where you're going to invest your money in the future, this network, and it is a digital network, it's a monetary network. It has power because of this. You understand? It has power because of this, and it has power because it is decentralized. And that's where the power is. So if you really get that no central government controls it, you understand, wow, this is the first money game that I believe that everybody can actually win. I believe it's the first one that everybody can actually win. And so this is the power of what we're witnessing right now before us. So as Michael Saylor was saying last night in the video, that's me talking, just talking briefly the last 2 minutes. But as Michael Saylor was just saying in the video, he was talking about you can be a spectator on the sidelines watching the game, or you get in the game. And then if you get in the game, you're not going to the casino. You're getting in a game where everybody could win. But you also have to have the time horizon of, are you still early? Yes, because the asset class of Bitcoin, comparatively to gold, gold's at like $10 trillion. Bitcoin is not. And so Bitcoin will grow and it will eventually eat gold and surpass gold, no question about it. And so if you're looking at it as a long-term time horizon and you realize that the value of this monetary network is massive, and to Michael Saylor's point, if you were to invest in New York real estate back in the 1600s, it would have been a smart investment, right? If you bought it in the 1700s, it would still be a smart investment. If you bought it in the 1800s, it still would be. 1900s still would be. 2000 still would be. 2024 still would be. Why? Because it's one of the most desirable properties on planet Earth. Just is. And so when you look at Bitcoin, it is going to be and is starting to become the most desirable digital property on the planet. And so to not recognize that would be simply because one has not gotten educated on it, because you can't have the data about what Bitcoin is. You can't have it. And you can't see the truth and then turn away from the truth. The only people who will turn away from the truth is people who have other agendas. So when you see people like Peter Schiff, who are going on and he's still attacking Bitcoin. Why? Because he's vested in gold. So he's attacking Bitcoin still to this day. He's been called every single year. He's attacking Bitcoin. In 2020, he was attacking Bitcoin. He's attacking Bitcoin now. He finds another reason to attack Bitcoin, and he's wrong. And most of what he's saying is false. The data is not true. So if you were to look at the data and you were to see the truth, you'd realize that you are dealing with the up and coming most powerful monetary network in the world. And that's the future of it. And to think that we're not going digital with our money, I mean, we already are. I mean, do you walk around with cash? You really don't, right? So to think that we're going digital with a monetary network that's decentralized, that's not controlled by a government, that every single transaction that's ever been made on that network is stored, which means it can never be changed, which means it is transparent. It can't be changed. It can't be falsified. I mean, look at the amount of fraud and the amount of manipulation that's been done in the American economy alone from large institutions that just fudge the books. And you can't go look at the books. You don't all the transactions, they can be changed. Somebody can lie about them. You can't lie on the Bitcoin network. The moment a transaction is made, it can never be changed. I mean, come on. Do you want that kind of transparency in the future of your monetary network? So you have, in my opinion, you have officials that are walking around. They probably don't have a large degree of understanding of really what Bitcoin is. You have individuals out there who have a large understanding of what Bitcoin is. And anybody who would be negative towards Bitcoin is doing one of two things. Number one, they have false data, so they run around and then they spread false data. Number two, they have other interests and they're threatened by Bitcoin. So they're going to put things out there and they're going to put lies out there that threaten Bitcoin. I mean, look at what happened with the elections. We heard from the news channels nonstop, nonstop. The race was close. It's so close. It's so close. It's so close. And it was a landslide that Trump won. A landslide. So when you look at these media channels that are often promoting other things based on other people's agendas, there's false data. So you have to look at the truth of real data. And you're not getting the real data unless you educate yourself and you study and you find out what this thing is. You can't get the real data from most financial institutions. You're not going to get real data from somebody who's just screaming from the top of their lungs of how bad it is when they're not educated on it. You know, you're not going to get real data from the group of people who buy in and aren't long-term investors. You see what I'm saying? Because it is a different animal, and because you're buying into something that has high volatility like Bitcoin, if somebody's buying in with a 60-day time horizon, a 90-day time horizon, if they're buying in with a short time horizon, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. And people who get in and it goes down are going to get freaked out and they're going to sell because they don't understand the asset. You see, for those of us who are in the game for 4 years, 8 years, I mean, I've been in this game for 6, 7 years. For those of us who've been in the game for a while, we've seen it go up and we've seen it go down 80%. So when it goes down 10%, 20%, or even when MicroStrategy's gone down 30% in a day, I'm not fazed by it because I know what I purchased. I know what I'm buying. Does that make sense? And so you'll get the group that will start flipping out because of fear. And they'll be like, oh my God, I just bought in and somebody told me to buy in and my Bitcoin went down 10%. It's like you're only losing your 10% if you sell. Make sense? And so if you're ever going to get into an asset like this, you have to be willing to stomach the volatility. And the volatility is what we love because we love the upside potential. And if we hold it for 4 years, we will get the upside potential of that volatility. And over every 4-year time horizon with Bitcoin, it's never lost money. So if you're looking at a 4-year time horizon, that's how you make decisions. You don't make them in 3-month time horizons at all. And so you get a group of people who go out there, they hear about MicroStrategy, they hear about Bitcoin, I'm going to get in, and they throw their money in. And all of a sudden, 30 days later, it doesn't go up like they expect. And like, that was terrible. I should have never bought in. I bought at the top, and then 4 years later, they'll be looking at it and they bought at the top, in, let's say Bitcoin at 103,000 when it was at the top. And 4 years later, when Bitcoin's at $500,000, right? When it's at $500,000 potentially in 4 years, or $300,000 in 4 years, or even $250,000 in 4 years, and somebody thinks they bought at the top at 100 grand, now they're going to be like, oh my God, I should have gotten into Bitcoin, right? So pay attention because these 3 things that I'm sharing, one, if somebody's bad mouthing Bitcoin online, it's because they have false data. You know how I've seen big opinion leaders recently, big audiences who years ago were saying, oh my God, this Bitcoin stuff, and now they're getting into it. Even Michael Saylor, a couple years prior to getting into Bitcoin, was like, no, it's no good, it's no good, it's no good. So, but he decided to then look at the truth, face the truth, and then he decided once he saw the truth to make a smart decision. And then he eventually ate crow and said, hey, I was wrong. And it's not too late for people to say wrong. Hey, listen, I was incorrect about it. I didn't get educated. Okay. I don't think as I look back and I'm making this prediction, and we can timestamp this, I don't think I'll ever look back 4 years from now and say that I was wrong. I don't think I'll look back 8 years from now and say that I was wrong for buying Bitcoin. And I don't think I'll look back 20 years from now and say I was wrong for buying Bitcoin. And I'll remember this day as I said it, because it is the superior asset. It is. It's the superior commodity online today, guys. Let's face it. I mean, what asset is scarce? What commodity is scarce? Right? You have gold, you have silver, you have sugar, you have soybean. They're not scarce. And if you think gold is scarce, it's not really scarce because we mine 2 to 3% more gold every year. So anything where the supply is increasing, eventually you're going to lose the value of that thing. Period. Real estate, gold to some degree, are they scarce? Yeah. But there's plenty of real estate out there. There'll be the next new development or the next new place that goes up and shoots up. I mean, look at Florida. The different developments that have shot up in pieces of land that were worth nothing and now are worth millions and millions of dollars of properties that people bought. So there's more land. There's more gold. There's no more Bitcoin. Only 21 million, and 19 million have already been issued, which means over the next time horizon of next so many decades, the remaining 2 billion will be issued, right? Every day, what's being issued is about 450 Bitcoin every single day. You see the supply that's being gobbled up. I mean, BlackRock is consuming Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin at the most rapid pace. I think BlackRock is the #1 holder of Bitcoin in the world. Then you have Microstrategy, which I believe is the #2 holder of Bitcoin in the world, and they're gobbling it up, right? If the top financial company in the world, right, the trillions of dollars of assets that BlackRock has, if they're gobbling up Bitcoin right now, I'm shocked that other companies aren't catching on. I'm shocked that Microsoft shareholders rejected putting some Bitcoin in their strategic reserve, putting some Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I can't wait for the next major company that actually gets smart and puts it on their balance sheet. Now, there's no doubt that these companies are extremely smart and they've gotten to where they're at because they're broke. Okay, there's no question about that. But if you're looking at where the economy is going and you're looking at where your money's sitting, when your money's sitting in reserves in a company, that money that's sitting in reserves might be earning 3%, 4%, 5% on your money. And the cost of living in the United States alone, if you look at the true cost of living, it's going up by 10 to 12% a year. So if you don't have your money in investments that are going to go beyond 10 to 12% a year, you're just losing the value of your dollar, period. So that's what I would think about as you're looking at this. And again, none of what I'm giving right now is financial advice on what to do. I'm just telling you what I've done. But I'm telling you again to repeat the 3 reasons of why people wouldn't get in Bitcoin. Number 1, they have false data because they're listening to false information out there. Number 2, there's somebody screaming at the top of their lungs of how Bitcoin's bad, like a Peter Schiff, who's a gold bug. He's a gold bug because that's part of his business, right? So of course he doesn't want Bitcoin. If your gold is the thing that you're promoting and you want more people gold, right? And Bitcoin is this competition, of course he's going to be smashing, right? And of course he's not going to be logical about it. So you have competitors or people who have counter intention to it that are going to knock it down. It doesn't mean that they're right, okay? And also, since I'm invested in Bitcoin, it doesn't mean I'm right. Go look at the facts. Go look at the facts. Do the research for yourself. Okay. And look, and if you were to look at, I've said this before, but if you were to look at the time value of money, Michael Saylor said this years ago, we print about 2 to 3% more supply of gold per year. I don't know the exact amount, but you can go look at it. So not print, we mine 2 to 3% more gold every single year. So if we were to mine 2 to 3% more gold every single year, at the end of 100 years, gold would lose 90% of its value. Right? And so you see people pouring into gold going, hey, gold is the right, I'm going to put my money in there. It's a store of value. But over a 100-year period, is it really a store of value if you're going to lose 90% of the value of it? No, it's not. Right? So now if you look at what is a true store of value with Bitcoin, where there's not more Bitcoin that's going to be more Bitcoin than 21 million Bitcoin. It's just not. It's programmed into the code. So we're not going to see that, which means that with the 19 million plus of Bitcoin already issued, and by the way, I think there's something like 4 million Bitcoin that of those 19 million, I think 4 million have been lost, so where people just lost their wallets and stuff, and it's just lost forever. So we know that's not going to get sold because it's lost forever, right? And then we've got the other 15 million out of the 19 million that's been issued that's there, and then we got another 2 million that's going to be issued, which will equate to 21 million. That's all we're ever going to have. So now you're looking at an asset that when inflation spikes and goes through the roof, Bitcoin holds its value, and that's the power of it. That's the true power of it. So when you see companies like MicroStrategy loading up, that's one of the reasons why. All right. So that's what I have to say tonight about Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. Again, what are my predictions for the year on it and why? I conservatively, I think we're going to see $150,000 Bitcoin in 2025. I know people want to see more. That's my conservative number. Would I be happy if it got above 200,000? Yes. Do I think that's possible? Yeah. Would I be through the moon, like through the roof if it got to 250,000? Yes. It's not my prediction. I'd be through the moon on it. Okay. But I'm going to be conservative on it and just say 150,000. Okay. And then MicroStrategy, if we see a $200,000 Bitcoin, I think then we will definitely see a $1,200 MicroStrategy price. So I'm going to stick with my prediction of MicroStrategy being 1,200. And right now it's at 385. The reason I'm saying that is because if you look at the history of MicroStrategy, it trades to about a 2 to 3x to basically for every dollar Bitcoin goes up, it goes up by $2 or it goes up by $3. Okay. So up until this month, it was going up by about $3 to what Bitcoin was going up. So when people were watching, like, oh my God, Bitcoin's going up 10%. How did MicroStrategy just spike 30% in a day? That's what MicroStrategy does. It goes up at a 2 to 3x. And I think the last numbers I looked at, it was trading at about a 2.17x. So for every dollar that Bitcoin goes up, it goes up by about 2.17. Now, this is not a direct correlation to every day. So don't look at this. Hey, Bitcoin went up 5%, of MicroStrategy go up by X. It's not a direct correlation. It's just if you look at the averages of what it's done recently this year, it was going up at about a 3x. So for every dollar Bitcoin went up, it would go up by 3. Okay. Now that's gone down recently to about a 2.17. I think we'll see it go up higher to about a 2.5. Okay. So the reason for that, and people are wondering, the reason for that, and you guys can ask questions. I'm not being a clown. Okay, thanks for the comments. Okay, so if you look at the reason for a 2.5 when it's going up by 2.5, when Bitcoin goes up by $1, MicroStrategy goes up by 2.1. I think it'll go to 2.5. The reason for that is actually what they're doing. And if you look at the strategy of what they're doing, the way MicroStrategy is acquiring Bitcoin is really two different ways. Number one, the first way that they're doing it is they're issuing stock. So when you look at the $2 billion of Bitcoin they just bought, they issued stock. People like you and me go buy the stock. They take our money and then they go buy more Bitcoin. Why are we happy? You and I are happy. So if we go buy, if MicroStrategy issues stock, and then a whole bunch of us go buy that stock and they take that money to buy Bitcoin, we're happy because the company's holding more Bitcoin. And we want more Bitcoin per share that we own in MicroStrategy. We're very happy with that. So when they go buy more Bitcoin, we're happy. Second thing that happens is MicroStrategy is also they're getting loans. And so they're issuing debt, right? So you issue stock, and when somebody buys your stock, they own a piece of your company. MicroStrategy is also issuing debt. So when you issue debt, people are loaning them money, okay? And they're loaning them money with the option to convert into MicroStrategy stock about 5 years into the future. Now, the thing that makes this magic, right? And I want you to get this concept. What makes what MicroStrategy is doing magical, okay? And I truly mean magical. They're borrowing money in some cases at 0%. Okay. Now, some of the loans are 0.5%, 0.8%. You can go look at them up. Some of the loans are 0%. So if you could imagine for a second that you were able to borrow money at 0%, right? and buy Bitcoin. Like all of a sudden, let's just say you had no money, and somebody's like, "I'm going to give you $1 million at 0%, and you can put it into Bitcoin." The value of your own personal wealth would go up, right, over that 4-year period, because Bitcoin over any 4 years has not lost money, right? So what's happening is MicroStrategy is getting loans, and based on these loans, which they issue debt. That's how it works. You issue debt. Somebody loans you money, and they're not paying out any interest. And the deal is they're not paying out any interest on some of these loans. Some of them they are, but they're below 1%. And the deal is 5 years later, the people who loan them the money will have the opportunity to convert into the MicroStrategy stock at the higher price at that time, realizing the gains on what MicroStrategy went up, on how much it went up. So that's the brilliance of the strategy. And so there's two ways that they're bringing in money: issuing stock, take the money, buy Bitcoin; issuing debt, take the money and they buy Bitcoin. And that's how they're acquiring Bitcoin at a super fast pace. And the idea that Michael Saylor has is that he's not going to stop doing it. He's not going to stop doing it. So if he keeps doing this and keeps doing this, and us as shareholders, if you own MicroStrategy like I do, right, as shareholders, our Bitcoin per share is going up. It's going up. And so that means that holding MicroStrategy for me long term is valuable. Even holding it since the beginning of the year for me has been super valuable between 300% and 400%, depending on the time that I bought. And so that is the strategy that MicroStrategy is. And that's why it is one of the most intelligent financial moves we've ever seen, I believe, in the last 100 years. Now, what are the risks? Okay. The risks, I believe, in buying MicroStrategy, and this is not financial advice, it is super volatile. Okay. So 45 days ago, when we were, looking at MicroStrategy, the stock price was up at 530. Right now, we're at 385. Okay. So you can see swings in the price 30%. You could see swings up 30%. You could see swings down 30%. Could we see a 50% swing up? Could we see a 50% swing down in short periods of time? Yeah, it's possible. So when you're investing in stuff like this, there's certain people that love the volatility because they're looking at 2025 and they're looking and going, "Hey, I think MicroStrategy could potentially get to $1,200 and its stock price is 385 now," and they like the volatility. They're willing to take that risk. But also, I think that most people are investing in MicroStrategy, and certainly I am. I'm looking at it from a long-term perspective where I'm going to hold not all of my MicroStrategy. I will take some profits next year, but I'm going to hold the stock long-term and hold it over these 4, 8-year, 10-year periods and watch it go up, 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 up. And I'm doing the same thing with my Tesla. Okay. So those are the things to consider when you're looking at it. The people who love volatility, you're going to get the upside, but you're also going to get the downside with it. And do your research, get educated, make sure you understand first Bitcoin. Second thing is, once you understand Bitcoin, go understand MicroStrategy, because they're the second biggest buyer of Bitcoin in the world. And then the third thing is, as you get educated on both of these, decide whether it's the right fit for you. Okay. I hope this serves you. In terms of anybody that has any questions, you can sure post them in the box with Andrew saying it's powerful to hear about the value of Bitcoin. Yeah, it sure is. And then we've got Jotaro on there, and we got a bunch of other people there. Sandra was saying the advice you were giving is supporting my growth in this area. I'm glad. I'm glad you're getting more clear on what MicroStrategy is. Okay. And also on what Bitcoin is. All right. I'll be doing more of these. If you have any comments or anything you want to leave below, any questions, I'm happy to answer any of them, clarify any of them. But I'm super, super excited about 2025. I'm super excited about what's happening with Bitcoin, what's happening with MicroStrategy. As somebody who's been involved in Bitcoin for the last 7 years, I feel like we've earned this one, the Bitcoin holders, and it's really becoming a real commodity now. Because it's been deemed a commodity, and it's a real asset class, which is exciting. Okay. Have a great night. Stay well, and I'll see you guys soon.